What is happening, everybody? My name is Beth and welcome back to Every Day is Spooktober. Now, today's video, okay, I'm gonna be straight. I haven't been to the cinema recently to watch any new films because I've been really busy. I'm hoping to go and see some new ones soon. I really want to go see The Menu, and I've been trying to do that. I just haven't gone yet. However, since payday has just gone by, I have ordered a ton more DVDs of just films I haven't seen. I have like a collection going over here, and I just want a huge collection one day. And I've just been buying films that I've not seen before. Like I've said in previous videos, I want this channel to be sort of my documentation of the films that I've seen, and it's something I can kind of look back to and in the future and things like that. So as you can tell by the title, I revisited Last Night in Soho. Now, I watched The Last Night in Soho when it came out in cinema in 2021, and it's an interesting one. A bit of backstory. I watched it in the cinema and I left, and I was like a bit disappointed because I was like, I'm not sure what I thought about it. I was a bit like on the edge whether I thought it was good or if it wasn't. There were some questionable things in the film, but then there were some really, really cool parts of the film. Director Edgar Wright, he's got a very like quirky, fun style to his filmmaking. Obviously, he did like Baby Driver, and he's done like World's End, a lot of Simon Pegg films, which are quite quirky and have that like British humour within it, and a lot of his films are driven sort of by music and the feel of things, which I think is really interesting and I love about it. I watched it in the cinema when it came out, and I wasn't sure how I felt about it, so I revisited it, and I've seen it a few times since, and it's definitely grown on me for sure. I have to say though, I think the biggest thing that like threw me off about this film is like the trailer and sort of what we were seeing advertised was like, this is like this cool sort of like trippy psychological film based in the 60s, and I thought that's really fun. And I think what sort of happened is the first sort of half an hour of the film, when we have Eloise, we find out that she's a student and she's going off to university to do fashion, and then we have her like in her dorm rooms and her like roommates are bitches and stuff. Like, as a university student myself, I was like, okay, can kind of relate. Like, it was like comedic to see that, but it was just not the vibe that I thought the film would be. And I feel like because it was set, around a student and her life, it felt like the sort of bar of like seriousness and like intensity and like all of that, it just felt like it was lowered, because I was like, oh, this is kind of like a teeny bopper film, and that was like my first reaction after I watched it the first time. I was like, this is kind of like a teen film, and I was expecting something like really interesting and gripping and psychological. That bit has definitely grown on me, although I would have preferred Eloise just to have been maybe someone that worked in fashion, and made it a bit more like, give the audience, double the audience's age by like 10 years, because I think the teeny part of it made it like, I don't know, didn't make it as like psychologically crazy and weird and intense. Although I think Matt Smith, if you don't know him from Doctor Who, what are you doing? Go watch it. But he played such an amazing role. I really, really liked him in this role. And then Anya Taylor-Joy, I mean, she's gorgeous. She's so good. I've sort of known her from The Witch. Fun fact, she was in a Skrillex music video, if you knew that or not. She's definitely popping off now, and I think Last Night in Soho has definitely sort of plunged her into these new roles that she's been doing, like The Menu. Overall, I think the acting was amazing. I think the colour palette was incredible. I loved the vibe of being in the 60s. It was just a different feel, and it was nice to sort of be in a different world. you know, it was sort of that balance between modern day and the 1960s and sort of merging them together. And it was just nice to see a different time era and it not just be set in a modern day, you know, time. Something about this film that I really do like though is the fact that in the trailers and the previews it really doesn't give away what the sort of main twist is of the film. And obviously it's the fact that Anya Taylor-Joy's character Sandy, obviously she's a prostitute and she's in a world where she doesn't want to be in it anymore and she's unhappy, and you know, it's one of those where it's like you go into something thinking it's going to be all this, but then it turns out to be nothing as you expected and you hate it. I think that sort of mystery is kept quite hidden until you actually watch the film, and I really respect, you know, Edgar for that, because, you know, a lot of filmmakers, I feel like a lot of filmmakers tend to put things out in their trailers, which makes it easy to guess. But for me, I had no idea until I stepped into the cinema and I watched it, and I thought, okay, like, I think the premise was interesting. You know, I think it's an interesting take on how you know, we look at men in certain circumstances. I think it's an interesting way of looking at London. I think those people who are from England, at least from the UK, you know, definitely can understand, you know, that all you know, telling a young girl like London's a bad place and they won't really know, you know, there's a lot that goes down in London. I think it's interesting how they put that sort of darkness on London, because, you know, once upon a time or even nowadays things like that are going on, and it sort of sheds light on it a bit more. And it's definitely one of those films where it's like, you know, watch out for yourself, be careful. I don't know how much of it was actually filmed within the centre of London, but there were definitely streets and shops and places that I was seeing in the film that I mean, I was in London the other day and I was like, oh, I've been there. I recognise that. You do live in the UK, then, you know, and you've been to London, then I'm sure you'll feel the same way about it. I feel like we definitely have that connection. People can make that connection of just, you know, it being home, it being England. I think this is a very well done film. Part of me still links it, and I mean, if you go on IMDb, it also says it. This is like a teen scream, a teen film. And I just wish that this was, you know, the story focused on maybe someone that just worked in fashion. But I also understand that that's sort of like being so young and not understanding things, you know, going to university, you're very vulnerable, you're alone. It's really difficult at times, like moving to a new city or a country on your own. It's really hard. And I think the fact that Eloise is so young, it helps sort of when she transforms into this, she goes into this other world with Sandy and Jack, you know, it makes it more believable, because it's like, would an adult believe this? You know what I mean? I understand why she is younger, so that she's more naive, and what she's seeing she really believes, and she thinks she's going crazy, and she's seeing all these things. And she also, like, you know, starts to get attached to this other world. She starts to get attached to Sandy and like wants to protect her and cares about her. So I think I understand why Edgar has made it about a student and a young girl, but at the same time, I think for me, that's why this film isn't a 10 out of 10. I think it could have been about, I wish it was about an adult. I wish the bar was like raised a bit more, and like we had some more like adult themes in it. You know, obviously the adult theme here is prostitution, and I think maybe they could have raised the bar a little bit and made it a bit more serious and intense. This is advertised as a horror, but to me, this doesn't even touch base with horror, in my opinion. This is more of a psychological, you know, fantasy thriller kind of film. That's how I see it anyway. But, you know, overall, I thought it was great. You know, I think the ending was all right. I think the ending could have been better. But I also respect the fact that we sort of have, you know, Sandy as her older self sort of dying in the house. That sort of caused her all this pain and caused her to, like, you know, kill all these men, etc, etc. I like the sort of link that we have there. However, I do wish something had happened to Eloise. Like, I wish something more dramatic had happened to Eloise. because, you know, as much as there's twists and turns and there's mysteries and, you know, there's misdirects and this, that, the other, I think that the ending needed to be a bit more like stronger, just to like finish it off. But I still appreciate the fact that we see Eloise sort of thriving after she goes through all this traumatic stuff in London. And I just want to mention John. he's such a cutie. He's such like a genuine character in this film, and it sort of feels like he doesn't belong because everything's so negative. But he's definitely like that positivity throughout the film that I think makes the film what it is, and you know, is a little bit comedic, is a little bit funny at times, but it, like a character, I don't know, the way he acts, the way Edgar has directed him to act is just so different and weird, and I've not really seen a character to behave and to talk and to sort of be that really nice guy. And I kind of, you appreciate him, he makes you laugh, and the fact that he still sticks around for Eloise is like crazy, because obviously she full on goes off the rails. But I thought he was a fun character in this, and did make me laugh. That is my thoughts on Last Night in Soho. My rating for the film, already rated it about a year ago, but I gave it a 7 out of 10, and I'm sticking by that. A good film, a fun film, some great actors, a good story, and just, you know, just a super fun watch. You know, every single role that sort of, you know, what was a part of this did such a great job with the music, the cinematography, you know, the production, everything was so good, and, you know, I appreciate the film for what it is. That's my review on Last Night in Soho. Let me know what you think. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you on the next one.